in the case of other family members, those are relationships that need to be nurtured and there needs to be balance. And there needs to be balance between your professional life and your personal life. And not that you're going to strike that balance every day, but you need to be keenly aware of leaving space in your life for the people who matter the most and the relationships that are lifetime relationships rather than more fleeting relationships.
Welcome to A Founder's Life, and I'm your host, Leo Costetner. On this show, we dive into the real stories behind the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and how we pursue a more balanced and meaningful life along the way. This podcast is sponsored by Thankz, helping founders like us scale with reliable remote talent. Email founders@thankz.com, that's THANKZ.com, with the subject line, A Founder's Life, and you'll receive $1,000 off your first month. Now, I'm excited today to be joined by Jeanne Achille. I'm going to pronounce that again and let my editor correct that one. Jeanne Achille. Was that correct?
That was correct.
I don't know why I was getting tongue twisted.
Yeah, that's okay. It's one of those names.
Yes, it shouldn't be. I mean, we've all got a couple of them. Anyway.
Exactly.
Now, I'm excited to be joined by Jeanne Achille. Jeanne, thank you for joining. I'd love for you to introduce yourself, please.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Jeanne. My last name is Achille. And yes, frequently confused with the tendon or the Greek god, but we are missing the S at the end of Achille. I am the founder and CEO of the Devon Group. We are a technology, PR, and marketing services company. And I'm coming to you today from the Jersey Shore, as in the real Jersey Shore, not that ghastly television show.
It's a ghastly television show for those that live in Jersey Shore, I guess.
It is indeed. I guess it entertains the rest of the U.S. and perhaps the world. I'm not really sure what its reach is.
And tell us a little bit about your work journey, both what got you to where you are today and what you do with your clients and for your clients in your current business.
My goodness, what a loaded question. So I started Devon out of frustration, I guess is the best way of putting it. I had come up through the ranks in what we would call corporate America, as a recruiter, as a sales rep, as a marketing executive, working at privately held companies, working at publicly held companies, eventually becoming a member of senior staff at a publicly held entity, almost always the only woman. In tech, that wasn't uncommon back in those days. Obviously, I'm not 16. And, I was becoming increasingly frustrated by the opportunities that were not being presented to me versus my colleagues. And I decided to become an entrepreneur instead and had no idea, Leah, what that was going to mean. But that's why we're here today, isn't it?
Definitely. I think it's that journey to understand a little more about that journey. And if you look at really how you're helping clients at the moment, what does a typical client look like for you?
So clients come to us because they're looking for either launch support, reputation management support, rebranding, and that might be the employer brand as well as their marketing and sales brand. They might have a milestone to achieve, and that might be an initial public offering or to raise, their Series B, whatever that looks like. Or it might be more tactical, just to fill in the gaps on their team because perhaps they don't have senior talent at a certain level or they don't have someone to manage their awards marketing program. So we are plugging in functionally. We're also plugging in as more of an integrated team on our side and lifting them up. Our goal is that our clients are remembered far more than we are. And I know that might sound counterintuitive for a PR marketing firm, but nothing delights us more than when we know we are instrumental in our clients' success, because that is how we are successful. And we've been in business now over 30 years. So hopefully that's validation.
That's impressive. And talk me a little bit about what family means to you.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have the good fortune of having raised three daughters who are very impressive in their own rights. They are all adults at this point. So I am well beyond the, dropping kids off at daycare or musing over what school they should attend. That was a very complicated journey. I have to say, when I look back on it now, I'm like, it's mind-boggling how all those pieces came together or didn't, and I certainly am very sensitive to watching men and women going through that now in terms of the parenting journey. So parenting is a big part of family, what I define as family. But, as I've gotten older, Leo, I'm also looking at the extended family. And it's so marvelous to reconnect with cousins or aunts and uncles. And, I had a very entertaining conversation recently about second cousin or third cousin once removed, or it's amazing how small the world really is when you start to find out what family means to you.
That's very true. And I think the question really is for some people, family, their children, their cousins, extended family, like you said. Other people, it's friends or it's their pets. I think the
Yes.
family definition is different for different people.
I do have two fur babies, and they are spoiled rotten. I took one of them to the vet the other day, and the vet was talking about the kibble we give them and things like that. I'm like, oh, no, no. We cook them chicken, and they have carrots and string beans. And it was actually a very comical conversation. Her eyes grew very large. Like, oh my gosh, you are spending way too much time on your dogs. But you're right. That is part of family too. And in the case of pets, that's unconditional love. In the case of other family members, those are relationships that need to be nurtured, and there needs to be balance. And there needs to be balance between your professional life and your personal life. And not that you're going to strike that balance every day, but you need to be keenly aware of leaving space in your life for the people who matter the most, and the relationships that are lifetime relationships rather than more fleeting relationships.
That's very true. And talking about sort of lifetime, what does health mean to you? Whether that be physical health, mental health, nutrition, how does health look?
So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in nutrition. I should have been an expert in nutrition. My mother was a registered nurse who was doing the Royal Canadian Mounties exercises when I was a child, and also serving nutritionally dense foods. And somehow I walked right past all of that and decided to eat boxes of chocolate instead. That finally caught up with me later in life. And so now, of course, physical activity, commitment to, in my case, a yoga practice, a commitment to eating food that is as close to the farm as possible, and having the good fortune of living in what is called the Garden State here in New Jersey. We have a number of farms around us, and so we have an abundance of wonderful foods that we're able to tap into. But I think it's crucial because you have to look at yourself as a high performance automobile. And if you're not taking care of it and you're not giving it what it needs to fuel it, it will break down, and it will be very costly to repair.
And it also gives that slow decline later in life, which hopefully by being sensible and being healthy, you can actually allow for a better health span. So forgetting lifespan, I like to talk about health span, but being
Mhm.
healthy until you die.
I
And
think
how
that's,
does,
yeah,
sorry, go
that's
on.
very important, Leo. As you said that, I'm thinking of mobility in particular. I think people underestimate the importance of mobility as people age. I see people who are aging and struggling with balance and struggling with mobility, and that's really curtailing their ability to be out there, to make choices, to have freedom of choice. So those are important points to be considering earlier in life.
Or at least some point in life
At some point in life, yes.
before it's too late.
Not everyone gets to start early.
I didn't start early, definitely came later. And what do you like to do for fun?
Goodness. So I'm a huge theater person, and I have the good fortune of living within a commuting train distance of Manhattan. So I make it a point of seeing as many Broadway plays as possible, but not always Broadway. I mean, I really enjoy some of the more avant-garde performances and performance art. I spend a great deal of time in museums. We'll be in London next month at the West End, so I don't limit my theater viewing to just Broadway. But yes, so fun for me would really be the entertainment arts. We also are big jazz fans, so we spend a lot of time following our favorite artists in that regard.
Lovely. And how for you does a balanced life look? And I often talk about balance as being that center line. So it's an overall balance. It's not a permanently imbalance, but how does a balanced life look for you?
So, first of all, I think you have to have an awareness of balance and what balance looks like for you. And I find a lot of people hurry through life without awareness. They're not checking in with themselves and they're experiencing extreme burnout. And because they don't have any resiliency built into their lives, they can't bounce back. And so I think in my case, that balance is daily. You know, if I'm ending my day and I'm absolutely fried, I know I need to unpack the day and see what I could have done differently. But that doesn't need to be a daily practice. It could be a monthly practice, but some level of awareness in terms of what's working for you, what's working for your family and your constituents and your colleagues, whomever, you know, whatever your ecosystem looks like. But checking in with yourself. How are you doing health wise? How are you doing emotionally? Are you snapping at people? Are you more chill? Are you breathing? People lack awareness about something as simple as breath.
And I think you're right. It's breathing, meditation, important part of a health routine.
You know, I am so envious of people who can meditate. Can you meditate, Leo? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I started like 10 years ago,
Hmm.
and I meditated daily for many, many years. Don't do 100% daily right now. I did do over 3,000 days in a row, but I do most days I meditate. Now, meditation can take different form.
Hmm.
Might be a 2-minute meditation. It might be a 20-minute meditation, or it might be a 3-hour run, which I can find is very meditative. So I think it can take different forms. I mean, I learned meditation in many ways with the Headspace app, which I actually really like the simplicity of it. As a Buddhist monk, it's sort of a guided meditation, which I found very helpful when I was learning it. And, the way he describes the sort of how you let distractions go, still use in other forms. When I meditate or even in daily life, I think it's can be very helpful.
I think that's very interesting. You could probably do an entire show on meditation. I love your approach that it takes many forms. I think when we hear the word traditionally, we have this vision of someone, you know, sitting in a cross-legged position for whatever, a half hour. I've not achieved that level yet. So I'm going to lean into your approach instead.
I think it's whatever works for people. I've got a really good friend who meditates 2+ hours a day. That wouldn't do it for me.
Yeah.
And by the way, when I'm meditating, I don't sit cross-legged. I just don't find that very comfortable. My body does not want to be in that position. I generally am sitting in a chair. Sometimes I'll meditate lying down, but sitting in a chair is better. Yeah, so meditation can be many different forms, and often combining it with breath can be really helpful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And what has been a pivotal moment in your life?
Wow, there have been many. Um, Starting a business for one. You know, I started a business on a Wednesday. I remember this because, you know, everyone in later years said to me, "I'd love to review your business plan. Want to see where the magic happened." I started a business on a Wednesday by making a few phone calls, and by Thursday morning, I had 3 clients. So that was pivotal. That was life changing. Being perhaps an overly responsible firstborn child, I immediately threw myself into what those 3 clients needed, perhaps to the point of almost reaching burnout. But that was pivotal and served as the foundation for a lot of learning, but also has served as the foundation to be instrumental in the lives of our employees, our clients, in terms of my own life, in terms of being a role model to my daughters. So I would say that's a pivotal moment.
Love that. And what's one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur?
Don't try to do it all yourself. So I started when I realized how quickly the train was leaving the station. I started by immediately hiring the professional services that I knew I would need to, and perhaps this is because of my line of business, but I wanted to make sure I looked real. So I hired a really good accountant and a really good lawyer so that things like going through contract negotiations were very smooth. Things like invoicing everything was very professional. But where I have seen people fail is when they try to do it all themselves. And it's really a self-limiting model, but it's also not a realistic model. No one person can be all things to all people. And so as an entrepreneur, that's tempting because you're also trying to save the money because you're balancing what's coming in and what's going out, but taking the plunge and at least, making sure you're lifting off with the right resources. You don't need a fancy office. I have fallen into that trap. At one time had 4 offices. Finally realized, the office itself wasn't making any money for anyone. It was just a big cost center. So have had some missteps over the way, but it's all about people and people power entrepreneurship. So surrounding yourself with the right professional services and making good hires. Listen, and sometimes those hires don't have to be traditional W-2 employees. Some of my best hires, so to speak, I'm using air quotes over the years, have actually been contractors or consultants or specialty talent that I was able to bring onto the team that gave us a differentiation that we could not have possibly nurtured in-house. So I think that's very important as well.
Great advice. And how can people find you?
Well, when you run a PR firm, you're kind of all over the internet. So certainly, please, if your listeners want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn as Jeanne Achille. I'm on Threads. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And of course, email is always fine. And that's JEANNE at Devon PR.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Leo. It's been my pleasure.
And thank you for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and please leave a review.